Welcome. It is 7 p.m. Maybe it's like howdy doody time. Actually, no, it's hump night. Hump night, Wednesday, November 19th, 2008, and this is Lundon Calling, the talk show you've been waiting for. My name is Ace Lundon, and welcome all you wild and wonderful weirdos out there in Podland. Thanks for tuning in. Pre-show and post-show music is being provided by Sonic Eclipse. More information is provided on the website if you want to hear about them. And I'm supposed to warn you in advance every show that if you have virgin ears, don't listen, please, because I say bad words. Okay? Folks tell me I have a potty mouth. And now, ladies and gentlemen, turn your attention to the corner on the left. In the red, white, and blue trunks, weighing in at 165 pounds of solid muscle and a bit of pre-40 flab, the ever-popular, dashing and debonair, world traveler, the multi-talented master of multitasking. Oh, wait a second. Can he whistle Dixie and masturbate at the same time? That's the master multitasker. Well, bless your heart. From Atlanta, Georgia, it's Lance Helms. Hey, Lance, how are you?
I'm doing great, and you stole my line because while you were sitting there basically cussing a blue streak, I was thinking to myself, well, bless his heart.
Okay, how would you introduce me, Sir Lancelot?
Oh, it'd be so much tamer than that. Oh my!
Oh yes. Well, I'm a lot tamer than you. Let's face it.
Until you open your mouth.
That has a lot of inferences to it. Yes.
You've taken us there, and we're only 2 minutes into the show. We can only go up from here.
You've got that touch of Southern hospitality, I will say that. And I got to tell you, this little very gentle Southern lady was driving across the Savannah River Bridge in Georgia one day, and as she neared the top of the bridge, she noticed a young man fixin', or that means getting ready, to jump. So she stopped the car, rolled down the window, and said, "Please don't jump. Think of your dear mother and father." And he replied, "Mom and Dad are both dead. I'm going to jump." And she said, "Well, think of your wife and children." He replied, "I'm not married and I don't have any kids." "Well, think of Robert E. Lee." "Who's Robert E. Lee?" "Well, bless your heart. Just go ahead and jump, you dumbass Yankee."
That about sums it up. That about sums it up. I love it. I'm using that.
You know, we talked on the show about doing a toast time, and I think I'm going to do something very different with this toast tonight. Who listens to a new internet talk show? Who do you think does?
Is this the romper room part of the show?
Yeah, as long as you got your rompers on. Mm-hmm.
Remember that show? I grew up on that show where she holds the looking glass up and she says, "I see Katie and Lance and Mike and Ace," and you'd sit there and wait for her to say your name. Yeah. And you thought she was looking right at you.
Well, I don't remember that, but I didn't watch it. but I have always believed that the most important people in our lives are those whom we choose to be our friends. And I don't know if you have actually gotten a chance or ever, maybe didn't have a chance, but did it anyway and read my autobiography. The closets are empty, the dining room's full. But in there, I did try to tell my kids, because I was writing it to them, about the fact that, sure, blood relatives are important in our lives. Blood relatives, what an awful thing. I wonder who thought that word up. Anyway, the relatives are important, family. But the most important, I have always felt, are those people that we call friends because we choose who we want to have in our life. And so I really think that tonight I'm going to salute in a toast the friends from the Pacific Coast. Now, the Pacific time zone, that would be California, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, and a little corner of the northern part of Idaho. That's that Pacific time zone. Maybe next show we'll do the Mountain time zone, and then the Central time zone, and then the East Coast time zone, and the international listeners to the show, to salute them, because these are the people that really give any show its foundation. And we've heard from so many in telephone calls I've gotten, and in emails, etc. And on the website, there have been a few that have dared to put their 2 cents worth in and things like this. And so I thought, okay, we're going to salute these people in a toast, a high five to all of these wonderful people. These are our audience friends.
Can you hear the the ice clinking in my glasses?
I certainly can, and I'm expecting you to toast.
I am.
Okay, but I'm going to start out with Alaska, because there are 2 people up there in Alaska. Now, Alaska is an hour ahead of the Pacific time zone, but there's Jeff Wood. He owns what's called Mad Myrna's. It's a gay bar in Anchorage, Alaska. Yes, they have gay bars in Anchorage. And
that must mean they have gay people, too.
Well, there are a lot of them up there, I'm told. And Jeff Wood at Mad Myrna's. And then there's Crystal Bondi. I worked with Crystal in the Midwest, and she moved up to Alaska. And we keep in close touch, and she's excited about the show being on because she can't hear it now. She's at work, but she likes to do the podcast thing. So, a toast out to Alaska and now to the Pacific time listeners. Oh, man, there's John and Heather up Rossfield, up in Bellingham, Washington. There's John and Nikki Ricard in the other end of Washington State. And Nikki's got a baby due in just a few weeks. And they were so excited about the show coming on. Then there is the beautiful actress who now is down in Hollywood. Her name is Ray Toledo. And she is one of those rare beauties that go to Hollywood. And she had been in New York on the stage, Broadway, and everything like this. And now she's making her living in Hollywood. And, of course, there's the equally beautiful actor. Well, in a different way, he's beautiful. William Catt.
Now, Ace, men can be beautiful.
Huh?
Men can be beautiful.
Oh, yes, I suppose we can. Yes. But
women can be handsome.
We're just beautiful in a different way, I guess. Anyway, William Catt. In case you don't really know who William Catt is, he was, in that, what's that TV show, The Greatest American Hero? Do you remember that, Lance, The Greatest American Hero?
I do.
Yeah, he was the star of that. I liked him most as an actor in the role he did in one of my very favorite films, Carrie.
Oh, yes.
He was the young male co-star in that at that time. I've known Billy since, I think he was like 15 or 16 years old when we first met. And then there is John Provost and his beautiful wife, Lori Richardson, up in Central California. Now, John Provost is the Timmy on the Lassie show. Lassie is celebrating its 50th year anniversary this year, the show is. And John got his biography or autobiography out. Goodness sakes, I'm in it even. And so if you get a chance, folks, to pick up a copy, it's called Timmy's in the Well. John played little Timmy on the show.
I love it.
And so he's a wonderful, wonderful man. Then there's Jeannie Allen in Los Angeles. Ah, Jeannie. Hey, high five to you, girl. The Sacramento State LGBT Pride Center. God, what a great group they've got up there. And thanks for listening, guys and gals. Then there's David Johnson in Palm Springs with the Barbara Johnson Foundation. And that foundation is a very interesting thing. In a way, it's a lot like PFLAG, the Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, except that it's very much an evangelical organization. So maybe, let's say, an evangelical parent with a gay child who would be afraid maybe to even go to PFLAG feels maybe more at home to go to an evangelical organization that still would give them the support they need in learning about what it's like to be a parent with a gay child. So David is doing a good job there. Carlos Mendoza up in Monte Rio, California. Then there's Bob and Johnny up in Redding, California. My mate and I got those two together many years ago. And they've been together now for, I don't know how many years, 20-some years. But Bob and I went to the university together, and we were in the same dorm. So we've known each other for a long time. Then there's Rob Appel and Gamal Elksworthy down in San Diego. Rob Appel was one of the pioneers for gay and lesbian rights also years ago. And he has been involved in the entertainment industry ever since he was born, I think, starting out in New York on Broadway and everything like that. And now he's still, even though he's retired, he still continues on with the arts world down in San Diego. An absolutely fabulous human being. And his life mate, Gamal, is from Cairo, Egypt. Becky Groves, she's a PFLAG mom up in Oregon, and the Central Oregon PFLAG chapter up there. Thanks for listening in, folks. Then there is, oh my God, happy birthday to you. Emily Dreyfus turns 25 years old today. Emily, bless your heart. I can remember like it was yesterday. Patrick, my mate, and I, you didn't know we were there, but you were just a little tiny nothing at that time. And we had to go up to see who Jeremy and Richard brought into the world. And there you were. Oh, you were a precious little one, Emily. And now you're 25 years old and you live in San Francisco. And who knows, you might be getting married one of these days, too, because I hear you're fooling around there, girl. Okay? And then there's Ramacon O'Arwisters in San Francisco, a phenomenal artist from San Francisco. Then there's author William Pelham in Palm Springs. There's Brian Uttman in Los Angeles in the public relations field. There's Barbara Clark Elliott, who is the president of the Seattle PFLAG, and one of her PFLAGers up there is Valerie Zimmerman. Thanks for listening, gals and guys up there. There's Gregory Hussein Howell down in Hollywood. Now, Gregory is the associate producer of America's Most Wanted, and he is excited about our little show, and I thank you, Greg, for listening. Angela Richardson in L.A., who transferred to L.A. from Brown University, and now she's out in lovely Los Angeles. Then there's poetess Professor Ruth Nolan in Palm Springs. And there is the writer and gay adult movie reviewer and LGBT pioneer in Los Angeles, Robert Patrick. Bless your heart, Robert, you're still keeping going. Then there's Freddie and Dan Magnavito up in Olympia, Washington. They're podcast listeners. And I had the privilege of attending the wedding, or whatever you want to call it, back in South Dakota when Freddie and Dan got together. And it was a beautiful, beautiful affair. Then there's Robert Van Kirk in Santa Monica. He's going to school there now and is studying foreign relations. Let's see, Robert moved there from Michigan, I believe it was, yes. Carly Mayberry in Los Angeles. Carly used to work for the Hollywood Reporter, and just a beautiful soul. Then Cynthia Kirk, who also worked for the Hollywood Reporter maybe 30 years ago, and Chris Marlowe, another old Hollywood Reporter person, and she's in Santa Monica now and works with Sony Pictures. Sarah Jameson at my old alma mater, Azusa Pacific University. Stephen Lader at Oregon State heads up the work up there for civil rights and things like that. Wonderful man. That's in Corvallis, I believe, yeah, or Oregon State, yeah. Stephanie Killian also lives in Corvallis now, and we met years ago, and she's now a mommy, and she moved out to Oregon. Mindy Mitzel, living in San Francisco. Hi, Mindy. Remember the good times we had back in the Midwest? Yes, yes. Then there's producer-director Marty Katz in Los Angeles. Marty and I lived in the same building. He was in the downstairs section of the building, and my ex-wife and I lived upstairs in the place, and that's been a few years back too. Then there's Harold Kamea with the Los Angeles P flag. There's Linda Blessing in Simi Valley. Talked to her recently to make sure that she didn't get burnt out with all the fires out there. Linda and I, now it shows you, this is something. Where do you meet your friends, or where do you meet people that you choose to become friends? Linda and I met in the dentist's office a while back, and so here we are. We're friends because we've chosen to be friends. There's Gabby Clayton with the Olympia Washington P flag organization up there. Stuart Guest, who was the first husband of my number one girl, and he is a musician, and you see him around at Universal Studios in Los Angeles. There's Reverend Troy Perry, the founder of the Metropolitan Community Church, which is one of the fastest growing denominations in the world today. This is, I guess, the answer to the fact that churches didn't want gay people years ago. So Reverend Perry founded the MCC, and people call it the Gay Church. It is just a wonderful organization. Then there's Bonnie Stoner. She's my favorite stoner, out in Cucamonga, California, and Bonnie Alexander down in San Diego area, who messes around with herbs and things like that. And of course, I can't name all of these people, but I have a wild and wonderful family of in-laws and outlaws on the Pacific Coast, too many to mention individually. Patrick came from a family of 14. So you can imagine what a large family group that is. And then there's the Lundberg-Westberg group from my side of the family, and they were pretty prolific also. And as many of you know, I used to live in Nevada, and we have a lot of great listeners from Nevada. There's the group at the Queer Student Union at UNR, which I was involved with, 20 years ago, I guess, or so. Then there was Rian Chin and her life mate, Angelique Abney. They're a part of that group. Then there's Jose Luis Melendrez, who directs the student diversity programs at UNLV. And the LGB president down at UNLV is Adam Cronus. They're listeners. Thank you, guys. Karma Henthorne, who just lost her life mate, Stormy Caldwell, a couple of weeks back. Bless her heart, she's hanging in tough up there in Reno. Anastasia Toscas, another fabulous woman. My goodness, I couldn't have done my book, my autobiography, without Anastasia. My old roommate up there, Donna Husted. And, of course, there's Dr. Bombay, Frank Ozaki. And, boy, what a great graphic designer this guy is. So if you're up in that area, you know who to get in touch with there. Cheryl Johns, my adopted granddaughter up there, who has a thing on the internet called a touch of mystic.com. She makes all of these wonderful things. Teresa Stewart, I used to work with her. Teresa Penman and her family. My next door neighbors from up there, Greg and Dawn Pontrelli. Oh my goodness, I don't know what life would be like without those two. Dean Cook, Becca Grief, Pixie Hootenanny. Yes, that's her name, Pixie Hootenanny, believe it or not. And her husband is Don Goodenough. Can you believe it? Anyway, she's a doll. Then there's Dean and Linda Meyer from Las Vegas. Just saw them. They came down to visit. And they're from the Black Hills area also, and now living in Las Vegas. There's Angela Brooks, another great gay rights pioneer almost, I guess you'd say, but she's not really old enough to be a pioneer. But she has the Reno Out radio show up there. Then there's Dot Shows. I used to work with her up there. And Holly Wilson. She and I worked on getting the PFLAG chapter going up there many, many years ago. And Sharon Ivory and the gang up in Elko. Listen, all of you wonderful folks, here's to you. Can I hear the tinkle of the glass?
Ah, yes. The clink of the ice in the toasting glass.
Yes.
Here's the families of choice as we approach Thanksgiving.
Here they are, you say?
I said, here's to families of choice as we approach Thanksgiving.
Absolutely. I thought
it's a perfect opportunity.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, Lance, folks can contact us.
I was just going to say, time to promote the call-in line, which
you better do it.
Email in line.
You do that, and I'll take a drink.
There you go. And the email address for us is lundon.calling@gmail.com. London is spelled with an initial U, so it's LUNDON.calling@gmail.com. And operators are standing by with their drinks half full, ice clinking away as we go careening toward Thanksgiving. Where are you spending Thanksgiving, Ace?
This year, I'm going to spend it with my blood relatives. God, I hate that crazy word, blood relatives. That sounds so awful.
Now, where's that going to be? Are they coming to you?
In Camarillo, California.
Camarillo. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I trilled my R.
You did. You're so gay. I get to have multiple Thanksgivings, and I always have for some reason. And the reason here in Georgia is, I don't know that you know this, Ace, but my family are Christmas tree farmers.
Hey.
My grandfather, the great atheist Christmas tree farmer, started the family business.
Yeah.
It's very true. He thinks church is for sleeping. But he retired. He retired as an airline pilot years ago in the late 70s. In fact, he retired from Eastern probably, it was 79, so 10 years before they bit the dust. He got out right on time. But he was still, it was one of those retirements where you've still got plenty of time to do whatever you want to do. And because he had grown up on a farm, he'd always wanted to go back to being a farmer. And he did a lot of research and determined that Christmas tree farming was the way to go. I call that entrepreneurship, I'll tell you.
Yes, it is.
Not that he doesn't love Christmas. Christmas was always big in the family. And the thing that I remember from growing up as a child is that we would have our immediate family Christmas on the day of. And there were several years in a row, sort of the golden age of our extended family Christmases, where the very next day would be at Granddad's house, and we'd have sort of an extended family Christmas, and it was really wonderful.
Well, I really think Christmas is a time for children, and I have great memories of Christmas.
It's a time for children and for queers who like to decorate. Hello.
Yes, it does keep a lot of the decorators busy.
Absolutely. And not just the decorators, but all of us. All of us are decorators.
Yeah.
But anyway, I get to have multiple Thanksgivings because
I like Thanksgiving. Yeah, well, I do like Thanksgiving.
Being in the Christmas tree business means that Thanksgiving is actually the day before the opening day of your season. And so Thanksgiving is a big work day. It's prep day for while everybody else is out shopping, my family is receiving people who are shopping for the first Christmas trees of the season. So consequently, this year, Family Thanksgiving is the Wednesday prior. Next Wednesday, the Wednesday just the day before Thanksgiving, which means I get to have Thanksgiving with family of choice. And
very good.
This year, I'm going to lovely Gaines, Vegas, Georgia. The rest of you might call it Gainesville, to be with a friend of mine and her boyfriend.
Uh-huh.
There was one year.
Our show next week is the day before Thanksgiving.
That's right.
Because I leave right after the show, and we head on into L.A. then, so we'll arrive kind of late, but that's okay.
You're gonna do like a red-eye all-nighter drive to L.A.?
Yep. Well, it's not quite all night. It's about 4.5 hours.
You could make it all night if you stopped at a bunch of diners on the way.
There aren't that many in the desert.
Come on now. I saw Romeo and Michelle's high school. I know there's at least one restaurant you can stop into and say, we're interested in the business women's late night breakfast. As you can see, we are business women. I invented Post-it notes. Did you see that movie?
No, I didn't.
Oh, Ace. That's proof you're not gay. It's such a great movie. It opens with it's Mira Sorvino and Lisa Kudrow, and they're these two slacker 20-something chicks living in, I think it's Venice Beach, and the opening scene is them in their apartment watching Pretty Woman, and they're showing the scene where Julia Roberts gets chased out of the boutique on Rodeo Drive by remember the two uppity women, and she walks in and she says, I'd like to try this on. And one of them says, it's very expensive. Like, basically, you can't afford it. You need to go away. And so Lisa Kudrow, playing the role that she plays best, the camera cuts to her and she's sort of in tears. And at this point, the movie's to the scene where Julia Roberts returns in triumph. And Mira Sorvino's character says, why are you crying? And she says, this is my favorite part of the movie. I just love it when they finally let her shop. Hence, it's a gay movie.
I do enjoy Kudrow, and I love her acting.
You would love it. Well, it's such a great. It's one of those cult classic kind of movies.
Yeah. By the way, folks, if I happen to miss you in the Pacific time zone, you email me and let me know, okay? That's lundon.calling@gmail.com, okay? Because I don't do it intentionally, but I'm old. Give me a break, okay? And next week, I'm going to toast out our listeners in the Mountain Time Zone and in the international group, okay?
Oh,
so you guys get ready in those zones, okay? As Aristotle said, it is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. So tonight, what you hear, you don't have to accept it, but entertain it, okay? He who dares not offend cannot be honest. So I don't worry about offending you when I talk. If you're offended, then you'll have to forgive me and consider the source. I just want to be honest with you. And please remember Aristotle's quote, okay? You got it. Freedom isn't free, folks. Freedom isn't free. And, with what's been going on with this Prop 8 thing now, thank goodness we got a lot of cameras going, because I have to tell you about this. It's a matter of history that when the Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces, that's General Dwight Eisenhower, found the victims in the death camps, he ordered all possible photographs to be taken, and for the German people from surrounding villages to be ushered through the camps and even made to bury the dead. He did this because he said, in words to this effect, "Get it all on record now. get the films, get the witnesses, because somewhere down the road of history, some bastard will get up and say that this never happened. Thank you, Ahmadinejad, or whoever you are over there in Iran.
We have our own American bastard. His name's Bradley Smith.
Oh, you got one here too, huh?
Oh, he's a professional Holocaust denier.
Oh, Lord help us.
Oh, yeah.
This week, or not this week.
We won't even issue a Lundon Calling bless his heart for that one.
Yeah, no, I don't want to bless his heart. The United Kingdom debated recently whether to remove the Holocaust from its school curriculum because it, quote, offends the Muslim population, which claims it never occurred. Well, it is.
You're making this up.
No, I'm not. It is not removed as yet, even though heard it was.
Wow.
However, this is a frightening portent of the fear that is gripping the world and how easily each country is giving into it. It is now more than 60 years after the Second World War, which I can remember, and that ended in Europe. And so we have to remember that in the memory of the 6 million Jews, 20 million Russians, 10 million Christians, and 1,900 Catholic priests who were murdered, raped, burned, starved, beat, experimented on, and humiliated while the German people looked the other way. Now more than ever.
That is so true.
Now more than ever, with Iran, among others, claiming the Holocaust to be a myth, it is imperative to make sure the world never forgets. So take photographs. Photographs are memories, and we have to remember that all that is needed for evil to succeed, as Edmund Burke said, is for decent human beings like you and me, my fellow friends, to do nothing.
Amen.
So that's
but now, Ace, I have to issue a Lundon Calling fact check. I don't know what you've got on your end, but I've got the internet at my disposal here. It's a dangerous.
Oh yes, and you're a multitasker.
I am I'm sitting here just making this drink go away and clipping my nails and surfing the internet all at the same time. And here's what I've found: the so-called Holocaust teaching ban.
The Holocaust what?
The Holocaust teaching ban rumor that you cited for the UK, and it's also been cited, believe it or not, for Kentucky. I don't know where the connection is. But according to Snopes.com and a couple of other references I got really quickly in a Google search, I think we'll all be relieved to note that according to these sites or these sources, it's false. It's a hoax. It's one of those hoax emails. And I got to tell you, Ace, unless the email comes from you, I don't believe it until I can double check it.
Okay, good deal.
Anything I get in my inbox that says, don't use your cell phone at the gas station, all that good stuff, or the toilet seat spiders. God,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Snopes.com. I'm just going to do a shameless plug for it. I have found more urban myths on Snopes.com.
Yeah, I get to actually look into those things too. Even though I'm not really a computer nerd, I'm a computer turd.
I was about to say you're not a computer nerd, but so what does that make you? A computer what?
A computer turd, yeah. Anyway, I do look into it. Talking about what you just said there, have you ever wondered about this, Lance? We talk about germs and things and how we have to be careful and such. And why do men like us wash our hands after we pee? If we're worried about germs, you'd think that we'd wash our hands first and then go and pee so we don't get germs on us. That's always been sort of a question in my mind. It doesn't make sense that we wash our hands afterwards.
Well, why do you think we wash our hands after we pee?
Well, I don't know. Maybe some men pee on their hands. I don't know, but I don't.
That's not a good enough reason because urine is sterile. No, I'm serious. It's sterile. seriously, you must have been a Boy Scout at some point in your evolution.
No, only after I got older. No, I did slap my face.
Isn't it in the Boy Scout manual that they say, like, if a snake bites you, then you should have somebody urinate on the wound?
Well, I know that during the war, the men had to drink their own piss because they didn't have any water. So there's nothing wrong with pee. You know?
It just tastes,
Yeah.
I guess some people are into it, but most of us really probably aren't.
Just need to take a breath mint afterwards.
It mixes
Have you heard of the 7 dwarves of menopause?
Oh, God.
Do you know who they are? Okay.
Play it off me.
Okay, the 7 dwarves of menopause. Itchy, bitchy, sweaty, sleepy, bloated, forgetful, and psycho. And
that sounds like a fairy
and
tale.
all of the women said, yes, amen.
There's a good night story for the kiddies. There's a good night story for the kiddies.
Well, from the ridiculous to the sublime. Does it ever cross your mind daily? It does mine. What an absolutely wonderful world we are living on. God, there are so many beautiful human beings, and there's so much creativity all around us. And I've been thinking,
enough about your porn collection.
Okay. Well,
beautiful human beings.
Thank God for it. But with the December holiday approaching, I've been saying to myself, it's not too early to think of gifts for family and friends. And now most of you that have listened to my radio show that I had before I started this one, I'm a strong supporter of the arts and artists. So then I was thinking, so how about this? In your local area, you must have artists' guilds or artist groups and such. How about seeing what they might have to offer from the standpoint of Christmas gifts? I think that would be a tremendous Christmas gift. For instance, right here in the River Valley Artists Guild, which is our local one, they've got a thing coming up. When is it? December 12th, 13th, and 14th, I think I heard, where they're going to have artwork, holiday decor, handcrafted specialty things, etc. And people can go to wherever their place is. It's down on the corner, 95 and Colorado Place there, and get gifts to give at Christmas. And I think that giving a gift that it has been created, by an artist should be one of the most wonderful gifts that a person could give. So anyway, just my thought for the upcoming season.
I'm with you on that, Ace.
Give a gift.
I try to make my Christmas gifts every year. I've done soap, baked goods, soap, more baked goods.
You're talented, though. I'm not. Patrick was talented like that. He was great with that type of thing. Or, of course, you can always give a bottle of wine because that's a nice thing to have for Christmas.
I always wanted to make my own bathtub booze. I always thought, wouldn't it be, I'm in Georgia. We have peaches. Wouldn't it be great to make peach brandy? It's completely illegal. That's the crazy thing. It's like you can brew your own beer. But
you can buy it, but you can't make it. Okay.
Well, you're not supposed to make it. We're also not supposed to gamble, but you think when I host a poker game, we're just playing with chips? But go ahead.
The California vintners in the Napa Valley area, they primarily produce Pinot Blanc, how do you pronounce that?
Ace, are we talking Mexican piñatas? What are you trying to say?
No, P-I-N-O-T, Pinot Blanc.
Pinot. Is there a tilde over the N where you come from?
Well, maybe a little bit, yeah. Pinot Blanc, Pinot Noir, Pinot Grigio.
There you go.
Did I say it right?
Grigio.
Okay, that's what they produce up there. They've developed a new hybrid grape that acts as an anti-diuretic. Whoa. Now, it's expected to reduce the number of trips that older people have to make to the bathroom during the night.
What a great excuse to stay an elderly alcoholic.
I think this is great. They call the new wine Pinot Noir.
Oh, God. How did I know this would turn into one of your ace puns? I love it. Pinot Noir.
Well, I tell you.
I want to do a shameless plug. You know, you talked about handmade gifts, and I remember from living in New Hampshire, I don't know if every state or region has these, but when I lived in New Hampshire, we had this wonderful organization called, I'm looking at their website, the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen. And they turn out the most exquisite stuff. It's all handmade. Beautiful furniture. I mean, just anything you can think of. I'm looking at a traveling exhibition of what look like ornaments. For those of us those of our listeners who are in the Northeast, if you can get to a League of New Hampshire Craftsmen traveling show or to one of their retail storefronts, not a bad thing to do for the holidays.
Yeah, you know, Walmart is nice, but I would prefer a gift.
Walmart is nice.
Like this.
Nice for what? Cheap shampoo?
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah. You know, holidays, I don't know about you. Holidays, I have found over the decades, for gay people are really kind of rough times. I think it's because a lot of us have found out that we've been kind of rejected by families and such, and things, so we've learned to have to spend our holidays alone, many of us, and they can really be tough. But holidays can be tough for heterosexuals.
Gay bars always packed at the holidays.
Yeah, and the gay bars are filled on the holidays, believe it or not.
Packed.
Yeah,
always packed.
Yeah, and for heterosexual people too, they don't have necessarily a great time during the holidays necessarily, especially
they just don't
if they have lost a mate or a loved one.
That's true.
So I say to you, if you have this situation in your life, try this. Put your feelings down on paper. It's a therapy. It really is. Instead of, just spending it home alone and moping or whatever, do a little writing. Put it down. They say that after a mate dies, it takes a person half of the years you spent together to get over the heavy grief. Now, for me, after Patrick passed away, it was 7 years. And I can remember 5 years later when I walked into a restaurant and they were playing our song, over the intercom. I actually had to leave the restaurant and go home. And this was during the holiday time. And so I sat down and I thought, because Patrick died, like I say, on the 10th of December. And that left Christmas as kind of black for me. He was born in 59, on September 19th, 1959. We were married in a rite of Holy Union ceremony on August 16th in 78. And then in 89, he died in my arms. And I got home, and I sat down, and I took my pen to paper, and I started writing, and I wrote, I cannot hide. Even in a restaurant, I cannot hide. And so I wrote, I cannot hide the happiness we had together when we spent those times alone, just you and me. And oh, those nights of joy we had when the two of us were one. Ecstasy beyond compare. But then the flame of love burned low. For what reason, I don't know. And now you're gone, and I can't hide the pain that's here. I can't hide from pictures in my mind of memories of days gone by. I can't hide from arms that ache to hold you tight when I cry. And I cry a lot, it seems, because I can't keep you from my dreams. And I can't hide, day or night, from loving, wanting, needing you. I was never much good at sleeping alone, honey. You know that. And the nights just about kill me now without you, 'cause I got so used to holding that body curled up next to me. Oh, I know they say time heals all hurts, but I hurt so bad. I've become like a man driven to fill that empty space in that bed. And now, even if it's full, I'm still empty. So, folks, put your thoughts down on paper.
Or better yet, send us an email.
Yeah. And remember that if you've been married for many years and you're a heterosexual in that kind of a marriage, and your loved one has crossed over, you're going to have a time of really rough times. The thoughts and the memories are going to stick with you. You can't escape them, whether it be in your daily thoughts when you're awake or at night when you're dreaming. It's just a part of the human experience. So why not take your time and do some writing? Put things down on paper. Pretend like you're writing a letter to your kids or your grandkids or the human beings on the planet yet to come. Tell them your thoughts that are in you about your love and your life and things like that. And I think you'll find yourself experiencing some great therapy, and it doesn't cost a thing. Hey, Grandpa Ace, do all fairy tales begin with once upon a time? And I have to answer no. There's a whole series of fairy tales that begin with I promise. So, if you have been in a marriage or a situation with another human where it was an I promise situation and things didn't work out, and you can't forget those either. Maybe your husband or wife was a real bitch or bastard, and you'd like to forget, but you can't. No, it's all right there in our little thing called a memory bank. And that's one bank that doesn't seem to run dry, believe it or not. So it's there. But put those thoughts down too. It's important. Important.
Well, speaking of fairy tales that start with I promise, here's something that is not a fairy tale, but I promise you that if you go to lundon-calling.net and you click on the right-hand navigation under the menu, there's a link called Staff Links. Our ever-capable webmaster, who's also our producer, has already posted a link, and Ace, I apologize that this is completely off topic.
That's okay. Tell me what Spider-Man has to say.
Just got a notification that the URL for the Snopes.com website is now available as a link off of our website.
Hey, good idea. Old Spider-Man's on the ball.
Yeah.
Yes. Happy birthday, Larry King. You're 75. He's 75 years old today. Can you believe it?
That man.
He's 75 today.
And do you know him too?
No, I never met him, but he always went to this little restaurant down on Fairfax, and somebody said, "Why didn't you go down and talk to Larry King?" Well, I never did, but I know he was always there with his old buddies. Then Dick Cavett, who is an acquaintance of mine, a Nebraska farm boy, I guess.
He is.
Dick Cavett. He finally turned my age today. I knew he'd catch up to me. Yes, sir, old Nebraska. Speaking of Nebraska, Ted Turner, who owns most of Nebraska, turned 70 today. They're all in my group. What a little group we have. And Joe Biden, our new vice president-to-be, tomorrow turns 66. He's
Isn't that interesting? He's only 6 years younger than McCain, and McCain was absolutely lampooned for being as old as he is.
Well, I'm 28 days older than McCain.
But you're not running for president.
I'm not doing much running because I can't.
Isn't that interesting? I mean, and let's look at Hillary. How old is she now?
She's about 60, I think.
60. And so if she runs again in, 4 years, she'll be 64. If that doesn't work out, or if she, for whatever reason, runs in 8 years, that she'd be 68. I mean, it's interesting, just a few years, and all of a sudden, I mean, people really made a lot of fun of McCain.
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing is that we forget, time is an irrelevant factor. Now, if time is irrelevant, then really our age should also be considered irrelevant. Most of my friends are not my age because they're too old. They've still gotten stuck back somewhere in the Victorian era, and I just don't have any real closeness with them. So most of my friends are younger than me, according to the birthday count. But age is really irrelevant.
Is that your way of saying that you're really immature?
You're bad. You're bad.
Oh, you opened the door. I just walked through it.
You just walked right in.
Made yourself right out. So I have a bit of levity for us. You ever gone to a website called Stuff White People Like?
Stuff White People Like.
Stuff White People Like, as in
white people.
This is on the subject of fairy tales that begin with I promise. Okay. Now, StuffWhitePeopleLike.com started out as a blog. I think it was, Blogspot / whatever, Stuff White People Like. And it's really, really taken off. And there's even at least one spinoff I know of called Stuff, Uppity Black People Like or something. One of my friends turned me on to it. It's just as funny. And it's just really about people really poking fun at themselves. We are currently on the StuffWhitePeopleLike.com website up to 116 posts. And there's one, again, going with the theme of promises never kept. Blog posting number 115, dated November 9th, is promising to learn a new language.
Yes.
And it goes, throughout history, white people have had a pretty poor record when it comes to promises. Parenthesis, see Americans, native for examples. Thankfully, modern white people are trying to erase the shame of the past by making promises to themselves that they will never keep. Writing a novel, going vegan, or sending their future kid to public school are just a few of these great breakable promises. But by far, the most common self-improvement promise is to learn a new language. This plan is first formulated when white people realized that 2 years of college Italian does not confer fluency. For the most part, these classes will only teach a white person how to order food in a restaurant, ask for a train schedule, and overpronounce words when they are mixed into English. Amazingly, this small amount of proficiency is more than enough to warrant inclusion on a resume under, quote, spoken languages. And it just kind of goes on from there. But you can see from the tone that it's great. It's great. Fun stuff. I don't know if you can find it at www.stuffwhitepeoplelike.com, but as with most things, I just go to Google and enter what I'm looking for, and it comes right up. So, Stuff White People Like.
Yeah,
that was your moment of levity.
We are at that age now when folks my age, we don't really know what's going on with all of these technical things. And it makes it kind of crazy for the older folks, so to speak, because are we going to learn all of this? The chances are no, we aren't going to learn much of that because there's just too much going on in our regular life to actually take time, or we're just too thick-headed to actually sit down with something that is just total Greek to us,
Is this the show where we're supposed to talk about sex toys?
No,
Oh,
that's
okay.
something. That is something that has been from the beginning of time, Lance. And whether you're young or old, sex toys are just a part of living. You didn't know that, probably.
Oh, no, I was back with the whole taking the time to sit down and learn the new technology.
Oh, okay. Have you thought about some of the things, since Thanksgiving is coming up, have you thought about some of the things that sound dirty but really aren't?
Oh, you got me good last week. What was that joke you told? Don't tell it again. But
No, okay. No, this one is, they sound dirty, but they really aren't. You know, at Thanksgiving, it's Cool Whip time. Mm-hmm. That's not dirty, but it sounds dirty. I can't unbutton my pants. I think I'm going to burst. Oh, yes, I've heard that at Thanksgiving. I've heard this one, too. Talk about a huge breast. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or when you come to the table, wow, that's one terrific spread.
Oh, God.
Yes. Yes. There are some things that we say that can be taken in more than one way.
Like the old one about the British guy at a bus stop, and he leans over to the woman next to him and he says, "Tickle me off with a feather." And she goes, "Pardon?" And he goes, "Right lovely weather."
I love it. I love it. Well, here's my Thanksgiving thing here. 'Twas the night of Thanksgiving, but I just couldn't sleep. Tried counting backwards, tried counting sheep. The leftovers beckoned, the dark meat and fight. But I fought the temptation with all my might. Tossing and turning with anticipation, the thought of a snack became infatuation. So I raced to the kitchen, flung open the door, and gazed at the fridge full of goodies galore. I gobbled up turkey and buttered potatoes, pickles and carrots, beans and tomatoes. I felt myself swelling so plump and so round, till all of a sudden I rose off the ground. I crashed through the ceiling, floating into the sky with a mouthful of pudding and a handful of pie. But I managed to yell as I soared past the trees, "Happy eating to all! Pass the Canberries, please!" Happy Thanksgiving, folks.
Do you really eat cranberry sauce?
I love it.
You like the stuff out of the can or you like the homemade stuff?
Both.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't used to like, what's that cake that you can throw or keep for years at Christmas time?
Fruit cake. Oh, see,
fruit cake.
Now you're talking about my Christmas baking project from like 2 or 3 years ago.
Well, I didn't used to like fruit cake.
15 of those mother flippers.
Yeah.
But I did, now just to my credit, I did make, standard American South Georgia doorstopper brick house fruit cake. I made the Italian pan forte recipe. But to Americans, it seems like fruit cake. But anyway.
Well, I didn't like it when I was younger, but my mother loved it.
Oh, and of course. That's like mom and grandma's job to love shit you'll never touch.
She kept after me until I would taste a little and taste a little and taste a little, and all of a sudden it really wasn't that bad. And I learned to actually like fruitcake.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another lesson we learned, that if we do something enough times, we eventually become quite proficient at it, or we like.
But enough about bottoming.
Bottoming?
Bottoming.
Oh, bottoming. Okay.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is the I'm going to take it downtown portion of the show.
What is it with all this Proposition 8 talk that's going on now about marriage?
Well, it's funny you should ask, because apparently the California Supreme Court has agreed to hear, well, this article says several legal challenges. I was told that there are about 3. Oh, it is 3. California Supreme Court has accepted 3 lawsuits seeking to nullify Prop 8. All 3 cases apparently center on a claim that the measure abridges the rights of a vulnerable minority group. I know at least one of them has to do with this technicality about, well, it wasn't really, we're halfway through our show.
Halfway through, yeah. It's 8 o'clock on the Pacific Coast now.
So at any rate, the California Supreme Court apparently will hear all 3 lawsuits. I am told that the chances are pretty slim that these lawsuits are really going to make
You ever think you'll get married?
I won't rule out any possibility. Where I'm sitting right now and knowing what's going on in my life and what's in my head, highly unlikely. What would you expect my answer to be?
That I would expect.
Really? Is that what I project?
Yeah.
The lone wolf?
I don't know if you're the marrying kind, you know.
Well, that could be the case. It could be the case. I'm pretty darn independent.
Yeah.
Independent. I think I will say this. If marriage had been an expectation when I were younger, I don't think it's a stretch to imagine that I probably would either be married today or would have been married at least once.
Well, if you'd have grown up in my generation, marriage was expected of you.
Well, I'm talking gay marriage, basically. Of course,
okay.
Of course, heterosexual marriage is this normative expectation of anyone until they, if they're gay, they declare themselves, and then it's like, oh. But no, I'm saying if same-sex marriage had been the law of the land when I was in my 20s, and we lived in the kind of world where people go, oh, well, is he the one? Are you going to settle down? Is he going to make an honest man out of you? There was at least one person in my 20s that we talked seriously about it, even back then when it just there was no it being legal. But I think a lot of it has to do with the societal context. The people around you sort of saying,
I'd love to know what I'd love to know what some of our listeners think about this marriage thing. I've been married in the straight world and married in the gay world, but the marriage in the gay world was what was called the rite of holy union. So it didn't carry the same benefits, so to speak, from the standpoint of the justice that one should receive in a marriage.
Right.
I didn't have any rights.
Right.
I couldn't go into the hospital room when Patrick was sick, like a relative would. I couldn't help him with his social service stuff, because I wasn't a blood relative or married,
Right.
And so the only way that we found that I found to take care of that situation back then, he'd become so terribly ill, and when I went down to the social services place, they told me they were sorry they couldn't let me do anything, and I thought, that is crappy. We've been together for over a decade, and so I went back to the house, and I when I got back there, I was steaming, so I told Patrick, I says, how are you feeling? And he says, not bad. I said, yeah, okay, normal, huh? Okay. I said, well, sit up on the side of the bed there. He says, why? I said, because I'm going to put some warmer clothes on you. And I did. And then he says, what are you doing? And I said, we're going someplace. He says, where? He says, we didn't have a car. And he says, I can't walk. And I said, I know. So I got some neckties out, and I said, you put your arms around my neck. And I tied his arms together in the front of him, in the front of my chest area. And then I stood up and I carried him 4 blocks to an attorney's office. And we get in, and she said, do you have an appointment? I said, nope. And I walked right on into the attorney's office, And he was quite shocked to see someone coming in carrying another man on their shoulders or on their back. And he says, wow, what can I do for you? I said, you can make it so that I am legally, totally responsible for him. I said, the laws that we have today won't allow me to be what I actually am. Therefore, we'll take the law and use it so that I can still do what needs to be done to take care of him. And we got all that taken care of. Then I put him on my back again and walked home. We weren't married in the eyes of the law, so to speak. But we were married in the eyes of our Creator, in the right of a holy union. And yet the Holy Union didn't give us the legal rights that we needed here on earth. It gave us our heavenly rights, so to speak. And now we're going through this whole thing with marriage. I've always thought that marriage was probably stupid anyway, for straight or gay. The only thing we really should do is make sure that if we have a union of two people, that that union is respected by the civil laws of our land. And it isn't for gay people. It is for straight people because of the church literally legalizing it with the political structures. Now, I don't know what you think about marriage, but that's just me. It's something that we have. Now we're fighting for. I think it will become a valid thing for the gay community in the future, though, don't you?
You know, it's interesting. My pastor likes to say, we don't necessarily want marriage. What we want is equality.
And that's the truth.
Yeah.
Yes. As, was it, Ruth Buzzy or Lily Tomlin used to say on the Laugh-In Show, and that's the truth. Yep.
That is the truth. So is this the part of the show? Well, here's what I've been thinking. We're talking about the holidays. We're talking about people being uncomfortable. I think one of the things that makes Thanksgiving and the rest of the holiday season difficult for a lot of people is, you're going to love this, Ace, they're still in the closet.
People that are still in the closet?
Oh, yeah. Well, they're either fully in the closet or there are layers to their closet. And I guess what I'm building toward is maybe something we can tackle next week is to talk a little bit about the closet. It's something you certainly have written a lot about. I just went on Amazon.com and I note for the benefit of our readers that The Closets Are Empty, The Dining Room's Full, An Autobiographical Legacy is available on Amazon.com.
Yeah.
It's available both new and used. Also available on Amazon.com is Through the Needle's Eye, The Legend of the Planet Itnava, which I'm sure is a place a lot of people feel like they're on when they have to go back to their family's Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah.
But Amazon can ship you The Closets Are Empty, The Dining Room's Full for $38.49 new, or as little as, Ace, don't take this as an insult because they're probably quite used, but you can actually...
I think it's $3 maybe.
Oh, that would be high.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
How about $1.10?
Yeah. Or they can actually get a new copy, and I would autograph it if they went to the closetlight.com website. Just order their book there.
That's a good point. That might explain why there are 4 collectible editions listed on the Amazon.com website.
Yeah.
To see.
Well,
you're not going to believe this. Ace, should I even mention this?
Sure, why not?
Check this out. One of the collectible, very good copies listed on Amazon for $24.95 plus $3.99 shipping. Poor Karen. I'm going to call her out on a podcast. comments. It says it's inscribed to Karen by Ace Lundon.
Well, I tell you, I did a national book tour.
That means that some lady you gave this book, you inscribed this book for her, and she's like, yeah, I'm going to put it on Amazon.
Yeah, well, people, I don't know about you, but after I've had a book for years and years, and if I've read it and maybe read it twice or whatever, and I'm saying, hey, I'm going to pass this on to someone else, you either bring it down to the Salvation Army or one of those places like the Volunteers of America.
I'm the same way. I'm not
I don't think that most authors, at least not me, that we feel, offended that someone is doing it. I had someone some time ago tell me that they were going to sell their book on Amazon. They'd read it, and they said they had also highlighted it in yellow, but they'd read it and read it. So why not? Why keep it?
That's right.
And I said, I agree. I agree.
It should be passed on.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm on theclosetlight.com, and I'm trying to figure out, I bet it's the left-hand nav link products. There it is, book. All right, this is how I buy the book.
And what's the charge there? $15 plus mailing?
$15 plus $4.60 shipping and handling.
Yeah, I think that's gone up to $4.80 now.
False advertising.
I know. Mm-hmm.
We'll come after you.
I'll eat 20 cents. But anyway, they can get it there too, yeah. Yeah. Talking about people in closets. Years ago, I don't know if they even thought about closet living. Closet thing has become a big thing only the last couple of decades or so because of the gay situation and gays coming out of their closets and the media exploiting this whole thing. But
you mean like when the media wonder why Anderson Cooper does funny things like, let me pull this up real quick. It's an article I found on one of my news wires. The title is Pot Interviews Kettle. Anderson asks what he won't answer. Here's the lead. This is a column in the local gay newspaper in Atlanta called The Dish, and The Dish is great. It's exactly what you would expect from a dish. Dish keeled over in pure ironic delight this weekend when journalist Anderson Cooper interviewed singer Kenny Chesney on 60 Minutes. Cooper's questions included, but were not limited to, whether or not he is gay. Chesney, not Cooper. But that's not to say the interview was worthless. Dish discovered that Chesney is good at several things: singing songs about sexy tractors, selling concert tickets, and marrying fabulous celeb Renee Zellweger. Unfortunately, he's not so good about staying married to Ms. Zellweger. The two filed for an annulment, blah, blah, blah. This reminds Dish of someone else who was part of that 60 Minutes interview. But then Chesney said the rumors of him being gay were, quote, not true. And it just goes on and on. Interestingly, Cooper, who considers his sexual orientation irrelevant in interviews of himself, clearly found Chesney's orientation very relevant. Dish understands. If we ran around thinking that Chesney was gay, we probably wouldn't buy any of his albums or attend any of his concerts. Little bit of sarcasm there. Meanwhile, Cooper auctioned off a lunch date with himself for Bailey House, an AIDS organization, a British man, Oliver Hicks, who described Anderson as, quote, cute in New York Post's page 6 article on the sale, paid $21,000 for the opportunity. Back to Ace and the closets of power.
Yeah. Boy, I tell you, spending my years in the entertainment industry as I've done, you talk about closeted people. Holy crap. And I was talking with...
But you knew a couple.
No, I certainly did. I was talking with somebody before the Halloween thing, and he said to me, he says, how about the broom closet? And I thought, the broom closet? And he said, yeah, what about all of those witches that haven't come out of their closet? They're witches, but because they don't want to be burned at Salem, maybe, or whatever, they stay in their closet. And that is a legitimate closet. The broom closet, and I like that. Yeah. Yeah, I tell you.
Can't argue with that.
Or the presidents that may have been gay and such. Of course, there's always rumors, You
mean like Abraham Lincoln?
Well, let's see. We were talking at one time about the fact that one of my dear old friends who passed away in '97 was Jim Kepner. He founded the International Gay and Lesbian Archives, which today is a part of the library at USC in Southern California. And he also was the co-founder of One Institute. And I got to know Jim when I first came out of my closet. And this man was so wonderful in helping me learn what the past was like and such. And he took me to personally see the documents and the letters with regard to Lincoln and such. And I am so grateful for the knowledge that he gave me. Now, I know that the rumors have flown over the decades, and there actually have been 14 presidents who have been mentioned as being gay or who knows what. There's only really been some evidence, but no specific information available regarding anal or oral sex. And
Ace, is that really what's required for someone to be?
Well, that's one of the things they think of. Yes, that's it.
Abe spent all those years in the same bed with what was his name? Joshua Speed.
It must be noted that different terminology was used decades ago in the defining of homosexuals. For instance, the 15th president, James Buchanan, who had great domestic and international expertise. By the way, he's kind of like what Clinton is today. He was a philanderer. He was a secretary of state, but he'd also been a senator, I believe. Anyway, according to James Lowen, the author of Lies My Teacher Told Me, basically outed Buchanan and let the world know that his longtime living companion, William Rufus King, who was vice president under Franklin Pierce, was referred to as Aunt Fancy by Andrew Jackson and by the Beltway crowd, who also referred to him as Mrs. Buchanan. So the word homosexual wasn't even known about yet, because that didn't come into existence until 1869. However, with Lincoln, there's much more than simply assertions that we have to consider in the statement that he was a homosexual. Now, Abe was a clown in his youth, and later he got into a wrestling thing while he was living at Dan Barnes' place. And family tradition of the Barnes had it that he and the other wrestler were lovers. So that's just one of the things. Now, in the book by Sander Lorand, he gives this picture of William Greene and Abraham Lincoln. When Abe got into legislation and pushed to move the state capital to Springfield, by the time Abe got there, there was no space, and he and William Greene became roommates. And the quote is, "So close did their itinerary become that when one rolled over, the other rolled right with him." Or you can take a look in the great author Carl Sandburg's Prairie Years and the War Years, 3 and 4 volume editions, in the describing of Abe's relationship with Joshua Speed that you mentioned. Speed and Lincoln met in 1837. They became bed partners for nearly 4 years. It wasn't quite, about 3.5, a little over 3.5 years, as Abe stayed with Speed in his room above the Speed store. And Speed wrote, "I have a large double bed upstairs which I share with store clerks now and then." The evidence is from Sandburg's The Prairie Years, not the War Years, that Abe was, quote, "characteristically gay." Regarding William Herndon, He became Lincoln's junior law partner in 1844. I've seen photos of him. He was a good-looking sucker. It was said that there was no reason why Abe would have chosen him, quote, except for his looks. And they were sometimes bed partners over the years. In Herndon's book, Lincoln, he told how Mary Todd wouldn't allow Speed or Herndon in the house after their marriage. Herndon questioned in his writings why Abe never showed interest in the fairer sex. Abe and Herndon had formed a circle of young bachelors on why young men of our nature don't marry, although all did marry later on in years. Advisors told Abe when he went to run for office, with the reputation you've gotten, you couldn't be elected dog catcher without being married. Carl Sandburg said Abe had a touch of lavender in his soul and a hint of the May breezes. This was a catchphrase frequently used to denote what we today call gay. A touch of lavender in his soul and a hint of the May breezes. Wow. I noticed that about you, Lance. You have a touch of lavender. So
I might have more than a touch.
Well, definitely the hint of the May breezes. Before the Mary Todd marriage, Abe possibly created this person, Anne Hathaway. We've heard about her. Historians can't find any evidence that Anne ever even existed. But Abe said that she had died of consumption and said he'd never look at another woman after she had died. Before Todd and Abe were married, Todd had already set her cap for Douglas, but missed, and then set her eyes on Abe. Now, Todd was a wealthy woman, but she was physically not very good looking. If you've seen pictures, I'd say ugly. After the engagement, Abe left Todd standing at the church for the wedding on the first go-around. He said he was nervous. Speed said to him, "Tell her in person why you don't want to marry her." He had written to Abe telling him how much Speed had written to Abe, telling him how much they missed each other, and he was furious with Abe about the Todd arrangement. So furious that he returned to Kentucky, and there he married a widow. And it is assumed, we don't know for sure, but it is assumed that Mary Todd destroyed all of the Speed Lincoln letters that came into her hands after they were married. Sandburg wrote about the circle of friends that Lincoln had and said, "Friendship is the highest of human virtues." Charles Shively's books on by Gay Sunshine on Walt Whitman, also a big name back in that time, who openly had a touch of lavender in his soul, speaking about Whitman's lovers, maybe stretched the evidence, but said that Abe had a soldier warm his bed for him. Now you figure out what that meant.
Wow.
Neighbors heard them arguing about him breaking up Speed and Abe. Now this bodyguard's name was David V. Derrickson. And in an 1870 book, The Man Lincoln Loved, it states that Abe got a copy of Whitman's Leaves of Grass from Herndon. Abe read it, and read it a lot. The two had actually only a nodding acquaintanceship, but it became a little more intimate with time, but only in friendship. So it's a good book to get. The Intimate World of Abe Lincoln by C.A. Tripp from Free Press, if you really want to look into something. Tripp passed away recently, I think, but a good writer and a good researcher. The Intimate World of Abe Lincoln. And now here we are today wondering whether or not we should be allowed to be married. And what if we had a gay president? You know, at one time. Or maybe two, Buchanan and Lincoln.
I think, it's pretty... Well, here's another one. Garfield.
Well, now, Mr. Garfield signed the papers to my ancestors' land grants and such, but Garfield was never really known of as, or thought of as being gay, or homo, or whatever they wanted to call it back then. But there have been, like I say, 14, I think, presidents that there's been all this lottie-doth crap going on.
14?
I think so, 14. Well, didn't you hear when Reagan was president? There were some people that were saying, "I think Reagan is gay." You know, all that crap goes on continually. It's like the rumors going around that, did you hear Ace is straight? Oh my God, you know. It gets down to this, that there's so much good in the worst of us and so much bad in the best of us. It is hard to tell which of us ought to reform the rest of us. Yes, yes.
There you go.
Amen to that.
Mm-hmm. I hear Mary Todd Lincoln was quite the shopper. I think she used retail therapy to get over it all.
Well, she had the money.
I think she used a bit of the treasury as well. No, apparently the Americans were not happy with it. Apparently she lavishly stocked the White House. She was into her china.
Well, I tell you, when you're in her shoes, if you can picture yourself as being a very ugly, straight female who also happens to be rich, and nobody wants to marry you, she was in a pickle.
Do you think she was very ugly? I don't think she was very ugly. She seems kind of homely.
Homely? Well, that's putting it mildly.
Wow. You're harsh.
No, she was not a raving beauty. Mm-mm.
Well, you know what? Abe Lincoln wasn't exactly.
No, he was not. He was certainly not very good looking either.
Oh.
And who better to select as a potential is some ugly looking, supposedly straight man. Mm-hmm. He'll marry me because nobody else is going to want him either. Mm-hmm.
Well, and look what they did for the country.
Yeah. But I often have thought the reason that probably Lincoln had such a compassion, if you want to use the word, for the slaves and such was because if you are a homosexual, or whatever they were called back then, lavender lilies, you've got to feel some compassion for other people that are in similar circumstances of bondage, you know? And you fight for them.
True. I think that's very. I think that's very true. People who live on the margins, you know, we have empathy with other people who are on the margins.
Empathy, that's the word. Yes,
empathy.
I have empathy for people that are invalids, or do they call them invalids nowadays? I don't know what they call them. But my mother was an invalid. My father was an invalid. My heart wells inside of me when I see people who are invalids. It is normal human behavior. And when I see people that are in their closets, and they don't know that I know they're in their closet, man, my heart just breaks inside of me because they don't have to be in that damn closet, you know? No matter what kind of a closet it is. In the Closet Light project that I started on the closetlight.com website, I think that we need to talk about the closets of light. Now, the gay closet is really one of the smaller closets. My dad was in a closet. And I didn't know it until I was what, about 28, 30 years old, I guess? I guess 30 years old.
What would you say he was in?
What closet?
Yeah.
I call his closet the I can't read closet. There are a lot of people who can't read, but they don't tell anybody else that they can't read.
Right.
So they're in that damn closet. If they came out, they could get help and they'd be able to read, and they wouldn't have to live with that awful guilt of not being able to read, you know?
What about closets that people don't even know that they're in? Like, what about the straight white male closet? The closet he's not even aware of. The closet.
Well, I listed one of the closets on the website, the I'm not in a closet.
Exactly.
Now, I said, I got a question. Could it be possible to be in a closet, knowing who you are, but denying it, and you poo-poo the whole idea? You know, maybe, this may be like someone who gets up and begins the day with a beer, continues throughout the day with more beer, yet insists they're not alcoholics.
Oh, I think it's deeper than that. When I say
it probably is.
When I say the straight white male closet, I mean not even realizing that you are inhabiting a constricted societal role, especially a constricted gender role, and really not even being aware of the fact that you are forced into it. You know, it ain't fun being gay sometimes, but I think there's something to be said for being given an excuse to sort of step aside and say, okay, well, now I'm going to find my own way and I'm going to define my own existence, versus not ever really being shown that you have that option.
You're talking about the straight white male who doesn't really want to get married but feels like he's being forced to, but he's not going to say anything about it?
I don't mean that they're gay. I mean...
Oh, you're talking about a straight white male who you think is gay?
No, I'm talking about a straitjacket of societal expectations that are put on. If you're a straight white man in our society is structured to give you the feedback that you've pretty much got the world by the tail. So why should you question your existence? But we should all question our existence. And what I'm saying is, I think you can be in a closet so deep that you don't even know it exists. And I think for everybody but the marginalized, and really in our society, the only people who are not marginalized in some way are straight white men. And you could even narrow that further to say, you know, straight white good-looking men, or straight white good-looking men with money. But, you know, the closer you get to whatever pinnacle we've described for ourselves in this society, the harder it becomes to realize that, you know, you have alternatives available to you. You don't have the luxury of living in a margin and saying, well, you know what, I'm going to do it my way.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sort of fits that closet.
I'm turning the whole closet thing on its ear.
Yeah,
I'm expressing sympathy for the people at the top of the pyramid.
Shoppers or gamblers, they don't think they're in a closet.
Well, and you know what? This is bringing me to things like, exactly, self-medication, you know, alcoholism, all of the ways that people subconsciously express maybe a desire. They're not in a closet, they say. They're not hiding, but they're in la-la land, I tell you. Hey, this might be a good part of the show, too, to just remind people that on the Lundon-Calling.net website, there is a link to the closetlight.com website.
Oh, good.
It's provided under staff links, which is in the right-hand navigation. Staff links are divided between you and me and Mike, our producer, and so far I only have one link. It's Snopes. You have three. One of them is theclosetlight.com.
Well, our Spider-Man did a good job there, too.
So here's some stuff I have to reveal to you about James Garfield.
Okay.
James Garfield, the last of the log cabin presidents.
Yes, he was.
I'll skip through the early stuff.
He was born in a log cabin.
Garfield had become overly concerned about masturbation. At the seminary, where, you know, hey, there you have it. He pored over books like Orson Fowler's, quote, amativeness, a word I've never even heard of, embracing the evils and remedies of excessive and perverted sexuality, including warning and advice to the married and single. And with a long title like that, it's merely described in this article as a tract that utterly condemns masturbation. Garfield fervently wished that every town had 10,000 copies of the book at their disposal.
Well, when you were younger, didn't any adult ever tell you that if you masturbated, but they didn't use the word, if you played with yourself, you'd go blind?
Well, we were all told that.
But I can't see anything here.
Right.
What happened? Oh, I must have masturbated. Holy mackerel.
Well, and you must have also, I certainly recall this from when I was growing up, the connection that people would make between masturbation and homosexuality. And this is what this piece on Garfield goes into. It continues in another book that Garfield read, The Young Man. That was the name of the book, The Young Man. Reverend Todd, the book's author, stated that 9 out of 10 boys indulged in masturbation. Shocker. I wonder about the 10th one and what he was doing all day. Supposedly, it doomed the boy to poverty, insanity, and insanity, as well as fueling homosexual desires. According to
this was a part of the religious teaching back in that day too. That's right.
So here we have a president who professes. It goes on to say he took an inordinate interest in homosexuality. He believed himself to be at risk for being an excessive masturbator. I mean, good God. So anyway.
Yeah, our presidents.
Possible Garfield probably was. What did you call it? Of the lavender equation.
Our presidents,
also very confused about a few things.
Our presidents are very, very human people, and like when Mr. Clinton had a good blowjob from a little gal in the office. Hey, that goes on a lot in boardrooms and offices across the country. So, ladies, you think that nobody else has touched that little weenie of yours that your husband has? I don't believe that.
Oh dear.
I don't. Of course, I'm rather cynical.
Oh dear.
Well,
it has been a half hour since we've gone and taken it downtown. Hey, have we mentioned yet what's going on tomorrow around the world?
The sun?
Oh, Ace. Tomorrow, November 20th, is the annual. It's not a happy occasion, but it bears mentioning. Tomorrow is the annual Transgender Day of Remembrance, which is observed around the world.
Hey, do you know transgender people?
Of course I do, and they know me.
You do?
Oh, yes.
I wonder if our listeners know any transgender people.
Well, I wonder if any of our listeners know that they know transgender people. That's
another good question. When I was married, my wife and I went to a big party in Beverly Hills, and the host of the party says, Ace, come on, I want you guys to meet someone. And we went over there, and here's this tall woman standing there. And he says, this is Christine Jorgensen. She was the first person that had gone to Denmark to have the operation to go from a man to a woman. So I had the opportunity of meeting Christine Jorgensen. And that was my first experience with transgender.
Wow.
Well, I tell you, she was like Lincoln. She wasn't really a good-looking girl.
Well, I've got something for you. Tyra Banks is apparently paying for sex reassignment surgery for one of the America's Top Model contestants. Here's the story. Tyra Banks announced on Monday that she found a doctor to pay for Isis King, the first transgender contestant on America's Next Top Model, to undergo sex reassignment surgery. King, who is 22, was born male and went from a homeless shelter to cycle 11 of Banks's reality competition show after producers discovered her at a photo shoot. Now she's eager to be known for more than her gender. Let's see. The surgeon, Dr. Marcy Powers, the gender reassignment surgeon who will evaluate and operate on King, will do it to the tune of $20,000 to $35,000. Go Tyra.
Yeah. You know, you and I as gay people, sometimes think, oh, we've got it so rough, you know. And I hear straight people saying, oh, my niece has a sign in the back of her truck, no whimpering, you know. We whimper. We are a whimpering group. And yet when you stop and
Stop global whining.
Yeah, no whining, no whimpering. What we whimper about and whine about, can you imagine being in the shoes of a human who is transgender? Then we know what it would be like to really whimper and whine, I think, because that has got to be one heck of a rough go of it.
That's right. Well, here are the statistics. Unfortunately, in 2008, so far as of November 11th, there have been 16 domestic murders, and these are just the ones we know of transgender people, 11 international for a total of 27. In 2007, the year for the number for the total year was 18. In 2006, it was 16. In 2005 and 4, it was 29. In 2003 and in 2002, it was 32 each of those years. And I'm being told that in a couple of seconds here, we'll have a URL on our website, lundon-calling.net, again under the staff links. This one will be this is a website specifically for Transgender Day of Remembrance. That is a worldwide website that tells people where their local Transgender Day of Remembrance observance is going to be held. The URL is www.transgender, as in dog, or.org, as in transgenderdayofremembrance.org. And if you hang out with enough trans people and allies, as I do, you'll pick up on people talking about a thing that we call TDOR, and it's just our shorthand for Transgender Day of Remembrance. I will certainly be observing tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So I have been for
There's a lady here up in the town just to the north of us. I was talking with her. She's transgender, and she's planning on running for city council next year.
We have a transgender city councilor here in Georgia.
Yeah?
Yeah. Her name is Michelle Bruce. And unfortunately, she was the subject of a pretty vicious lawsuit. I think it was by a challenger saying that Michelle deceived the voters, that Michelle is actually a man and shouldn't have been on the ballot as a woman. And, of course, it got tossed out. You know, this whole thing about trans bashing, for lack of a better word, reminds me of another article I saw recently. This is good old Mike Huckabee, who ran for president and thought he had the chops to run this country. But here's one of his views, just for the edification of our listeners. This is from page 1Q. Former Arkansas governor and presidential candidate Mike Huckabee told the panelists of The View that he was proud that the country saw past race in electing Barack Obama as president, but insinuated that gays haven't been subjected to enough physical violence to have true civil rights grievances. So clearly the numbers aren't on our side, is what he's saying.
Oh, in other words, we have to be...
There's not enough violence. It's a different set of rights, he said. People who are homosexual should have every right in terms of their civil rights to be employed, to do anything they want. But when we're talking about a redefinition of an institution, boy, they love to whip that out.
We need to be violated more, he is saying.
Exactly. And apparently,
let's have more Matthew Shepherds and stuff like that. Please,
yeah,
please.
He doesn't get a Lundon Calling, bless his heart. Well, let's just remind Mike Huckabee here for a moment what the reality is on anti-gay violence, since we're talking about basically, let's just put it all out there. We've talked about anti-transgender violence. Hate crimes, this is an old report, but apparently we don't have 2008 statistics. Hate crimes against gays increased in 2007, up 6% from 2006, even though the number of overall hate crimes dropped slightly, the FBI reported. There were 7,624 hate crimes reported in 2007, down 1% from 2006. So this is overall hate crimes. crimes based on sexual orientation, 1,265 in 2007, have been rising since 2005. So take that, Mike Huckabee. I guess because we don't have, 8,000 hate crimes going on in the country, or crimes based on sexual orientation are only up. They only numbered 1,265 in 2007 instead of maybe a nice round 1,300 or 1,500. Then our claim that we deserve equal marriage rights is speechless. So
he sounds like a person that would be in what I call the not in our hood closet.
So not in our hood, and I would like
fills up. The not in our hood closet, I think, is one of the largest closets. Really, it fills up with respectable citizens of all races and creeds who overtly spout about how they just love everybody, but behind their politically correct facade, they labor to make sure that they won't get dirty because of them and their kind. Now, that's called bigotry.
That's right.
And since it is politically incorrect, it's hidden behind closed doors.
That's right.
A few of the KKK members have come out of their closets to show their faces these days, and this is proper, I think. But who knows who is under a white hood when their hatred is being acted upon. Now, this may be a very difficult closet to exit, even though a light of support burns brightly for them beckoning to come out. The difficulty maybe lies in the fact that bigotry is something a person blindly and intolerantly believes in a particular opinion or creed, and it allows them to believe only they are correct. It's like a lethal virus, and it's something that's taught. So we really need to talk and discuss about the ramifications of this ugly closet that probably the majority of closeted people are in. If there's an epitome for closets that would disclose the least to the most dangerous, this, in my thinking, would rate a 10. It's an insidious closet where folks are taught or learn theological creeds that have the potential to warp their minds. It's a bad, bad closet.
Wow, that's heavy duty, Ace.
It's like it's like the bad daddy, bad mommy closet. We don't think much about this one, but it's like they say, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, Right. But it's a fact that what is happening in many private homes is also staying there, because there are folks afraid to let it be known that they are abusing their spouse and even their children in many cases. So I call it the bad daddy, bad mommy closet. Of course, they don't want it to be known that they are physically or psychologically abusing someone they say they love. This abuse might be seen by others, but usually no one says anything because it's, quote, a private matter between family members. This is a closet that absolutely should be exposed because folks are truly being harmed. And top this all off is the fact that help is available for these folks hiding behind their family traditions, both for the abuser and the abused. So I always say, let's get real, folks. Love isn't found at the end of a fist. And when it is said that if you spare the rod, you'll spoil the child, it doesn't mean that you beat the shit out of the kid.
That's so true.
And this bad daddy, bad mommy closet, you could also say it might be the closet of the fathers, the padres, or the pastors who seem to have a proclivity of taking advantage of children in the parish. They definitely are bad daddies. Yes. So I think we need to talk about these things. Get them out in the open. I have on my computer, on one of my bookmark things, a thing where it tells where all of the child abusers that have been released are living in my community.
Goodness.
I want to know. I don't have any children to be abused here, but I want to know who they are.
Well, Ace, I'm going to leave you with that, and I would like to present a point of light as a counterpoint to some of the statistics that we just read off. This is maybe a brighter. This is an article on 365gay.com talking about some of the things that we can look forward to in the new administration in Washington. President-elect Barack Obama has laid out his commitment to LGBT civil rights in an eight-point plan posted on his transition website. I love it that they use the word transition to talk about his it has a double meaning for us. His 8-point plan calls for passage of the Matthew Shepard Hate Crimes Act. Take that, Mike Huckabee. A gender-inclusive employment discrimination act. Repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Repeal of the federal defense.
Yeah, we need to repeal that stupid thing.
Oh, yeah. It goes on. Repeal of the Federal Defense of Marriage Act. Opposition to any attempt to reintroduce an amendment to the Constitution to ban same-sex marriage. Support for inclusive adoption rights, and an expanded war on HIV and AIDS. This apparently...
Well, the citizens of this country have got to hold Obama to the fire on these things that he wants to get done in that area.
You know, something tells me, I don't want to be one of the many, many millions of people who are attributing a lot of things to him that really are wishes and hopes and beliefs versus things that he's actually said he's going to do. But I get the sense that this guy doesn't put things out there that he's really not committed to doing. I feel that way about him too. Yeah.
As
opposed to like the way Bill Clinton handled himself, where he sort of, my recollection, and I might have it wrong, of what happened with Don't Ask, Don't Tell, was that he sort of threw out a position on gay equality basically while he was campaigning, and then when he got into office was sort of struggling to find a way to make good on it and came out with Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
I am so leery of politicians. I really am. I don't care whether they're Republican, Democrat, or whatever, because a lot of them are such old fogies my age, living in the 18th century still in their minds.
Can't say that about Barack Hussein Obama.
I know, but he's got himself in a beltway that is loaded with these idiots.
Well, we hired him to cut through the BS.
Hopefully he'll do it.
So speaking of Hussein, Ace, are you on Facebook?
Yeah, a number of my friends on Facebook have added Hussein to their middle name.
I was going to say, it took me a minute because the first time I noticed it, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. That person's middle name is Hussein.
Yeah.
John Hussein Smith.
I think they were probably real good Democrats, and they just decided that, hell.
Now, Ace, that has nothing to do with Democrat or Republican. Well, it's about decency.
Do you know any Republican that's named Hussein? I don't.
That doesn't mean they don't exist.
I know, but, let's face it. The Democrats have a very, very different social attitude than the Republicans, at least those old stick-in-the-mud Republicans that got beaten this time because they didn't get out of the mud.
That's a gross generalization. I know some mighty decent Republicans, starting with you.
Well, me too, and I am one.
Yeah. You guys
But like I say, the old stick-in-the-mud kind, and that's what they wanted to do. They kept it going in the old thing. Well, they're back in that other century, and they've got to come out. If they're going to make any impact upon the world, the Republicans have got to get their shit together.
Well, I don't think they have a choice at this point.
I don't either.
Yeah. They have rapidly diminished. The national Republicans have rapidly degenerated into a regional religious party, and I say this as someone who lives in that region.
Yeah, well, like Barry Goldwater told me years ago when I asked him what he thought of our grand old party these days, and this was after the upheaval in the party. He said, I think it's gone to hell since the religious right took over. And
Amen.
I said, I said, good. I'm not the only one who thinks so.
That's right. Well, you Arizona Republicans, you're a different breed. God bless you.
Well, listen, the Arizona people and the South Dakota people they're very, very stubborn, independent-minded people. I don't know why, but those two states seem to be that way. And
well, it's that frontier mentality, and I saw that when I lived in New Hampshire, but I think it had slightly different roots. New Englanders tend to be really independent-minded and much more geared toward individual privacy, and I think they really resent intrusions on people's privacy, and I think that's why I saw New Hampshire turn progressively blue. I don't know how much of it had to do with New Hampshire really becoming a state full of liberals as much as they just were finally thoroughly disgusted with the National Party's abuse of individual rights.
Well, people are so afraid to talk, about reality things, because they don't want, they want to be politically correct, that just gets to me, How in the hell can you be real if you are afraid to, like I said at the earlier part of the show, he who dares not offend cannot be honest. So we offend. Okay. Big deal. Get over it, honey. Let's talk reality. It's like with the problem with obesity, people are afraid to say anything about, oh, he's a fatty or she's a fatty or whatever. They won't even allow you on the radio to play the Too Fat Polka anymore.
Is this how we want to end our show?
I don't know. We'll end on a fat note.
Fat note.
Okay. This is a news flash for you. A new report suggests that being overweight is not as harmful as is commonly believed. This new report says, and actually confers some surprising benefits. Being 5 to 10 pounds overweight could protect people from ailments ranging from tuberculosis to Alzheimer's disease, the research indicates. Those carrying 15 to 25 extra pounds are better able to recover from adverse conditions such as emphysema, pneumonia, and various injuries and infections, the report says. 30 to 40 pounds of flab could help fend off breast, kidney, pancreatic, prostate, and colon cancer. And an extra 50 pounds on the scale may improve eyesight, reverse baldness, cure of the common cold, and reduce global warming. In general, the report concludes that overweight people are happier, more successful in business, smarter, and friendlier. This study was funded through a research grant from McDonald's, Burger King, Jack in the Box, Taco Bell, Domino's Pizza, Starbucks, Haagen-Dazs, Sara Lee, and Krispy Kremes. And that's my news flash for the end of our show.
I knew it was going somewhere. Well, we've managed to entertain our audience for another hour and 58 minutes. Let's stay with us.
Are we getting close to the end?
Well, we're getting close to the end of something, but not the end of everything.
Yes, I see it is getting close here. Time is so irrelevant with me at my age, and as it was when I was young, too.
So age is just your excuse now.
Yes.
Your new excuse.
I just don't pay. Somebody said, and this is something that maybe our listeners could talk. They said, why do you have a 2-hour show? It's so long, Well, I don't know. Maybe they should let us know about this. Would a 1-hour show be better? Would a 1-minute show be better? Whatever, let's think about it. We could have a 24-hour show as far as that goes.
Oh, good God.
Oh, good God is right.
Mm-hmm. Microphones installed all over the house.
People do not realize, I'm sure, what it takes to actually do a show of this nature. The time of research, the time of looking, the time of planning, the time of preparing, and things like that. But there's a lot that goes into shows, and if a person has never done it, he'll never know. But believe me, it makes you toe the mark throughout the week. I had a 15-minute show one time, and it took me 2 weeks to prepare that 15-minute show.
I believe it.
Yeah. Here we go. So, folks, I don't care if you lick windows or have to take a special bus or occasionally pee on yourself. You just hang in there, sunshine, because you are friggin' special. We love you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone.